Hi, this video recording will be for tutorial 5, case problem 2, and in order for this to go efficiently so you don't have to listen to the recording for too long or watch me type and save and stuff like that, I'm going to show you what the end product would look like and walk you through certain features of it. So the case we're going over is case problem 2 with a training database, and that's a part of tutorial 5 starting on page 277. So the first step is opening, second is modifying a record. You guys can do that. Step 3 is to create a query called selected programs, where we're looking for monthly fees where the field value is 20, 30, or 40. So you're going to create a query in Design View. You're going to add the appropriate table, the program table. You're going to add the appropriate fields, and when you get that done, in Design View, it's going to look something like this. So you'll have program ID, type, monthly fee, physical required, and then what you're going to do, there we got one extra of those, for when you're looking for a range of values 20, 30, and 40, you can use the syntax in and then start your parenthesis, and then within the parentheses list the values you're looking for, with each one separated by a comma. And when you run this, you can see that it will show just those fees that are 20, 30, or 40. Similar syntax is not in. So if we wanted all monthly fees that were not 20, 30, or 40, we can use the syntax not in 20, 30, or 40, and now when we run that, we'll get all of the monthly fees that are not equal to those or not found in that range. So you can use the in syntax or the not in syntax. And so that takes care of steps 3 and 4. For step 5, it wants you to create a query to display all records from the member table, selecting the last name, first name, street, and phone fields, sorting in ascending order by last name, and then in ascending order by first name. And then what they want you to do is combine the first name and last name fields into one column called member name. And so what you're going to do, it'll look something like this, is you will create in a blank column. So you'll go here to a blank column and you'll type in member name and follow that with a colon. And then this is going to be your calculated field. And when you're using fields that have numbers in them, you'll use operators like the plus sign, minus sign, and multiply and divide. When you're using fields that have text inside them, you will use operators like the ampersand symbol and then the quotation marks to add text to your text strings or your calculated field. So when you're done, your calculated field would look something like this, where you will have added the first name field, and you need to make sure that the spacing and the spelling is exactly the same as you would find it in the table. And you can see the table here that it's first name with no spacing. Then we do the ampersand symbol, which is like the plus sign, but we use this when we're adding or combining text fields. Then we have the quote with a space in between and then an end quote. And what that says is take first name and add to that a space, and then add to that the last name field. And when you're done with that, what you get is the first name followed by a space and then followed by the last name. Okay? They also ask you to do that for the city, state, and zip, and they ask for the format of city, comma, space, then the state, and then 2 spaces, and then the zip. And so your calculated field will look like this. You'll do the city, and again you would start this, you would go over here to a blank column and type in city line and a colon, and you would start typing in your fields. The first one is the city field. Make sure it's spelled exactly the same as the field name in your table, and field names come with square brackets around them. If it's text, it's quotation marks. If it's a field that you see here, it has square brackets around. So we take the city field and we're going to add to that, and then we are going to add text, so we need our quotation marks, a comma, a space, and then we end our quote. So it's saying take the city field, add to that a comma and a space, add to that the state field, add to that 2 spaces, and then add to that the zip field to look like this when you're done. So we have our city, a comma and a space, the state field, 2 spaces, and then the zip code field. And that's what you would do to create the query requested in step 5 on page 277. For step 6, it's asking us to create a query display all records from the program and the member tables. And we want a calculated field named monthly fee status, where if the status is active, we'll display the word active, and for anything else, we'll display not active. So if it's not active, on hold, it doesn't matter. If it's not the word active, we'll display not active. And we want to save it as query monthly fee status. So when you get done with it, adding all the fields, which I know you know how to do, you're going to get to a calculated field, and you're going to call it monthly fee status as they asked you to. And then you're going to do an if function. In Excel, if functions are IF, and then you start your parenthesis. In Access, because IF is what you'll do when you're writing code to select criteria, we need to use the function IIF. So that's why you see that as IIF instead of just if. And what we're saying here is that if and then we start our parenthesis, membership status, that field, that's why it has square brackets around it, if that is equal to active, and since active is text, it's not a field name in our table, it's actually a field value, we put quotation marks around it. So we're saying if membership status is equal to active, that's our logical test, it's followed by a comma. If that's true, this is our true part. If it's true, display the word active. And since that's text, we have to put quotation marks around it. That's our true part. Then we do a comma to move us to our false part. And if membership status is not active, meaning if this is false, then we want it to display not active. And remember, you need to have that in quotation marks because it is text. And once you enter that in and run it, you can see that under monthly fee status, we now only have active or not active. There's no on holds. Just going to do a couple more just because I don't want this video to be too long. We're already at 7.5 minutes. And so we're going to go to Richmond and Chester active. I'm just going to show you what it should look like, because what happened was you can see here that this is what I saw the most, that we did Richmond and active, but we also need Chester and active. So they're asking for all actives in either Chester or Richmond. So we would need to make sure that the active status is listed on each line. You could have also done this. You could have done in, and then in parentheses done Richmond, if I can spell it right. And remember, or Chester, and remember to put these in quotation marks. So you could have done it that way, so it's any of these, but they also have to be active. So when you get this, it'll be Richmond and Chester only, and then all of the membership statuses will be active. Okay? The parameters, so step 8, the parameter query. Member city parameter, right here. So what they wanted you to do is not just enter in the parameter to prompt people to enter a city, whatever city they were searching for when they were doing their query. They also wanted you to include code that would result in all records showing from the table if no city was entered. Okay? So that code is like what you do for that. Normally when we do our parameter, we just say type the city and put that in square brackets. But to write the code so that Access will select all records if no city is entered, we start with like, then in square brackets write our message, type the city, end our square brackets, and then the rest of the code is the ampersand sign, a quotation mark, double quote, an asterisk, and then end our double quote. Now when I run it, I can type in Ashland and I'll just get the city of Ashland, but if I run it and don't type in any city, I get all of the records. Okay, so that you should have that code in there. Alright, so the last thing we're going to skip, we had some issues with number 13, the input mask, so we're going to skip that, and I just want to show you what the validation rule for step 14 would look like. So if you were doing the validation rule for monthly fee, you'll want to make sure it says that the validation rule, you'll use the code between and. So you'll do between and then the first number in the range, and then the last number in the range. So that's what your validation code should look like. And then for the making sure the expiration date is after the join date, you can add that in the property sheet of the member table, and it would look like this right here. Join date less than expiration date. Because these are fields in a table, they need to have the square brackets around them. Not any quotation marks, just the square brackets. And that's most of case 2. I hope you found this helpful. You can run this video. It's set to run on your phone, so if you want to run it on a phone or on another electronic device while you work on your databases or while you check your work, you can do so. So good luck.